Holy smokes, folks. Stuart here. We're coming to you from South Central Pennsylvania. Just to give you some perspective, we're about 40 minutes away from Gettysburg, PA, and we're about 10 seconds away from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, because I happen to live on the border of Chambersburg, so I can walk across the street and I'm in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Day of January, and we are it's snowing outside, and my dog's around me here, and we are my intention for today is to film the voiceover because I've started painting poorly, and hopefully I'm going to learn ways to get into my new hobby, or my old hobby, and I'm going painting videos, and I'm gonna hopefully learn some new and exciting ways to paint and or ruin miniatures, and hopefully you'll find this educational and entertaining. Hopefully I will be better at this than I was last week or previously, as I've been working on this. So you guys didn't get to see a lot of those videos or a lot of the painting time. It wasn't good, definitely. So what I've learned so far, one, making YouTube videos is pretty difficult. Filming all the footage, I found that most of it's boring. I'm not interested, and one of the pieces of wisdom that I've learned is that if I'm not interested, then you're not going to be interested. It also means editing in Premiere Pro, which for me isn't easy. And I'm learning how to do that as I'm doing other stuff, like painting, etc. Which leads me to the next thing. It's making YouTube videos is a hobby on its own. It's not easy, and I'm not a video person, and I'm not a editor of files, and this is not easy for me to do. At best, I'm a miniature painter. I am not a videographer, and I'm certainly not a computer editor. Let's see. The second thing I've learned, B, is that mold lines are difficult to remove, and they're bare. There's no way around it. I've learned that I want to 3D print miniatures, hopefully with my new Photon 4K 3D printer, which is downstairs, and hopefully you'll get to see an unboxing of that. It's been put away, has not been gotten out of the box yet, but I'm hoping that I can get rid of mold lines, and I can get rid of putting things together, so I'll get rid of gaps. And it seems like a lot to learn to do those things, but in the long run I think it's going to help. So right, seems like a lot to learn just to 3D print, but I did have an FDM printer, or I do have an FDM printer, and now I'm moving to a resin printer as well, and hopefully that's going to give me some learning. For the posting of this video, I do have a resin printer which just came, and I will be unboxing that, and hopefully there will be a video for that. who knows? So what I find myself doing is I do have everything written down that I'm going to say. So hopefully I'll be a little more polished this video than I was last video. And if I am, that's great. And if I'm not, well, then, bite me, because I wrote it down and I'm giving my best effort. So a little bit of time since I put out the last one, the last video. So I am slowly getting better. I mean, it's been about a month, which I'm learning it's going to take me probably a weekend's worth of painting and then a weekend's worth of editing. I do a day job. Currently, we'll see what happens with editing videos and being able to put them out relatively quickly. 2 months would be great. More a month would be even greater. So we'll see. Please subscribe and come back. Hopefully I'm going to get better every week, and hopefully I'm going to it's going to be interesting, and we'll get to see which miniatures I ruin and which miniatures are actually passable. So at first, I'm going to try my hand at a big gorilla with armor and a sword. I decided to make the gorilla itself albino because that's what I decided. And so it's mostly going to be white, and it's going to have black armor and a sword, which will be black with silver on top of it, because I decided that. So, I talked to myself about the gorilla, and in the meantime, I've named the gorilla Terrence because I'm bored. And that was the name I decided on. I started by putting some miniatures together. I glued them together. I cleaned off mold lines with the back of an X-Acto. I've been watching a YouTube woman who primes. She paints miniatures and she primes all in black. And I like everything she does so far. For the most part, she's been doing a lot of underpainting, and the underpainting basically involves priming in black, dry brushing in white, filling in white, so that all of her highlights and shadows are already built in, and then she does very thin coats with glazes and washes and etc. And I did not do that for Terrence the gorilla. Maybe, hopefully, adopt her style somewhat, and I'll get to that in a little bit. For gap filling, I started with spackle, which was just a mistake on my part, and I did that probably because my brain is yogurt these days, no offense to yogurt. I switched to green stuff, and I made small beads, and I pushed them in with tools and some water, and then I gave them time to dry. Which my understanding is that is the way that others do it. It's the way I did it before I lost my mind, and so I'm trying to get back to that. After several lifetimes worth of kneading, I was able to turn the green stuff into soft putty that I was able to push in. It was an old tube or an old roll of green stuff, so if you know of a faster way to turn it into a soft putty, please leave it down in the comments, because it took me what seemed to be forever just to turn it into something usable. there's part of me that does not want to have to buy another tube or another roll of green stuff. It's not that it's super expensive, but it's not that it's cheap. Or make, I would much rather learn to make softer what I have. So I'm not very good at gap filling, but mostly it's because I have a very difficult time seeing, even with glasses and hobby glasses on, and I'm working on this, and hopefully I will have a solution in the next couple of months. Unfortunately, during that time, I'm probably going to have to paint. Right now, to wear the glasses and wear the 5X hobby glasses, it works, but I really have to keep things very close to my face, within half a foot, and I don't care for that. On top of which, the hobby glasses are very heavy. I switched from framed hobby glasses to head strap hobby glasses, but it's still weighs a lot. I do have an idea for fixing the vision problem. It involves me getting new glasses that hopefully will be strong enough to magnify just the prints or just the miniatures, so I'll be able to use one pair of glasses, and hopefully that will make things better. I'm going to have to go back to the eye doctor and have my eyes examined, probably bring a sample mini, probably bring the hobby glasses, but hopefully the eye doctor will be able to prescribe me or build me a pair of glasses that are going to work. Once I primed and tried to gap fill and mold line clear like a dozen miniatures. I ended up going with about 2 to start, but I figured I had my tools out, so, and I was in a mode, so I would try to gap fill, I would try to put things together, I would try to mold line release, and it was, during those steps that I learned how difficult it was. So hopefully 3D printing solution will solve that, and I can print 1 miniature or 2 miniatures a month, and they can be at least sizable for my Frozen Mini 4K, and they'll be bigger than the Bones miniatures, but we'll see. So, with construction completed, I gave, and gap filled, I turned to my first paint job. Lots of white on the gorilla, and probably the most difficult color, or one of the most difficult colors to paint, because white tends to turn chalky, and but I decided on it anyway, and I don't own any near white, like a sand or anything like that, so I couldn't get away with using those colors, so or using that color. So I did put on like true white. It didn't help that I used cheap hobby colors to make my starter pool white. I didn't use any thinner. I used water, and I may have to get some white. So who knows? The weapons and the armor I painted black. Well, I going back to the white. On the white, I used a sepia wash to give it sort of a dirty color, a not pure white color. I think it looks okay. It went from terrible just to awful, which I suppose is good. For the armor, I started with black, and then I put a silver on top of it in a dry brush, I think, and I definitely could have done more with the armor and the weapons and the jewelry, but I figured that white and a wash and then going Reichland or flesh tone with the face and the hands and the feet, and then washing with Reichland flesh from GW, and then going black and silver would be enough for the first outing. It definitely would have been more interesting if I had used something else for the weapons and the armor, and who knows, maybe I'll go back. I did not finish the miniature off with any kind of spray varnish, only because all my finishing stuff's out in the garage and it's very cold out here right now. I really need to bring those things in so that they can warm up and I can take them outside as I need them, but I don't have any place to go with those, and it would be a lot of work to find the spot. But hey, you know what? Maybe I will. So the gorilla had a bit of a skirt on with some studs in it, and those the skirt I did front and back in blue, a dark blue. Again, not a lot of colors on this first one, only because I wanted to finish it. I was impatient, and I wanted to see if I could still paint at all. And I'm definitely going to do more on the troll, although the troll's going to be probably green, but for the most part. But it's and I did paint the troll already, but we'll get to that. What I'm shooting for here is probably tabletop quality of about a 10-year-old. I'm definitely not using my printing skills or my painting skills to enter these in competitions. And well, truth be told, I'm more skill level of a gorilla, a young gorilla, as a matter of fact. We'll see what happens. I'm definitely not on the level of people who have been, for the most part, putting up videos on the internet, and in one or more of them they say things along the lines of, "Oh, I'm not the best painter." Trust me, I'm not the best painter on the internet. And definitely there are people who are competition level, and then there are people who are tabletop level, and there are people who are high tabletop level. We really should go with a ranking system to rank ourselves. I would probably be at 0 or in the negatives. I did base the gorilla with green, and I did use the supplied base, which I probably shouldn't have, and I did paint the base ring in black, which I didn't, like I said, I did not finish the miniature in green, or sorry, I did not finish the miniature in spray varnish. I do have some matte out there, and I have some gloss out there, the idea being that you hit the miniature with gloss to because it's got a thicker body to it and protects the mini more, and then you hit it with a flat to bring down the color. I'd like to be able to do those things. I just have to bring them inside so that they warm up, and I do want to put up a board that I can do my priming and my varnishing on. I have some wood. I know what I want to do, and we'll see if I can do that. So I have a decent printing space. It's a 4x4 card table, and what I did was I put plastic on the legs so that it raises it up, so it's not card level height. I have a freestanding outlight, and I have a desktop outlight, which my wonderful wife gave me. She's been very supportive of this hobby even before I managed to have the stroke, and she's been super supportive afterwards. And what I ended up doing was I had a lot of GW paints from earlier, and I got a set of Army Painter paints, and I totally filled my paint racks, and you can see it on this video. I barely have any room to paint much. I barely have any room to paint, much less store miniatures that I'm working on. I barely have any room to put out colors that I'm working on. So what I did was I bought a laser cut rack for some Army painters. I put together the Army painter rack, I glued it, and I was able to put away most of the paints. I think I've got about a dozen paints that I don't have room for yet. But I was able to reorganize my painting station, and that's a good thing because it gave me more room. It gave me room for the camera, and that's going to be some good stuff. And I probably have, at least 7 or 8 apple barrel paints, which I have to see if they're any good anymore. They're very old, and they're big, and they're cheap, and they're weird colors, but I might use them, so I'm probably going to hold on to them. But if nothing else, I've got room to set up my camera and camcorder, and I've got room to set up my paints, and I've got room to set up my miniatures and brushes, so that's good. I did buy a set of brushes, which I'm going to take downstairs, and I bought some makeup brushes so that I've got dry brushing equipment, and I went and I bought a set of inks, alcohol inks, because I really liked the things that 3D Mini Farm did with using alcohol inks on clear printouts of elementals to get fire or water or earth, and I'd like to do that as well. So I have made myself room, and I have immediately overfilled the room. So all my racks are full, and I definitely need to do something about that. So I made more room after I painted the gorilla, Terrence, and so you're not going to see it. Everything's definitely crowded looking on the table, and hopefully we'll get to Gladys in a minute, at which point you'll see her painting was crowded and it wasn't crowded. I'll explain more later, but that should be good. Okay, that's it. I'm going to sign off now. My name has been Stuart. It still is. And I will see you next time.